Hello, I'm toycat and welcome back to another second channel video. Today I have some more geography of toycat. It's everyone's favourite second channel series, right? Or is it just mine? Either way, it's been a while since I did one of these, and it's also been a while since I uploaded here in general, so I figured I'd talk about something that I do quite like, and that is maps. That's right, I love me some geography. But in all seriousness, I figured I'd talk about two things today, because one of them came up on stream. First of all, I want to talk about why all maps you've probably ever seen, including this big world map you've seen, are actually quite wrong in quite a few ways. And second of all, I figured I'd talk about some cool things you can do with Google Maps and Google Earth in general, because a lot of people do use Google Maps, just for directions or for this or for that, and you can do some cool stuff with it. All of this was kind of learned while I was just playing around in college, doing stuff I shouldn't have. So yeah, maybe that's stuff that you'll find useful. If you do like it, let me know. Actually, it's second channel, don't care. Let's get straight into it. So let's start by talking about why maps are drawn on a flat surface. You know, this is the map you'll have traditionally seen. You get a piece of paper, maybe you color in some countries or whatever you do with maps as a child. Either way, this is the map you're taught, but it's not an accurate map because the Earth, as we all know, is a sphere, but yet maps are always on a flat plane. And the reason for that is because obviously, you know, when you start with a small scale, maps can be flat and they can be flat pretty easily. Like if we take a random European city, let's take Warsaw, for instance. If we just take Warsaw and you look at it on a map, as you can see, this is, okay, so here's the satellite image of the place, and here's the map view. As you can see, you just take all the major features, you take it, it's just fine. There's a tiny difference between the map view and the Earth view, but it's so tiny that it's really not worth going into, and basically, for the most part, if you take, a flat image of it, it'd take me better if there was a slight curve in it, but flat's gonna be mostly fine, and because we only have flat paper as humans, we draw maps on flat pieces of surface, and it makes entire sense when it comes to a city-size thing, or even a country. Let's look at the entirety of Poland right here, which is a pretty big country if you don't know. Here's what it looks like on Earth, here's what it looks like on the real life. As you can see, there's a slight shift. If you look at the north coast, you can see how it's not entirely where it should be, and some stuff looks bigger than it should be, and also this entire thing is way thinner on a map. But yeah, basically, there's a few small changes, but for the most part, it looks the same on a map than it does in a satellite view image. However, the real issue starts to come when you look at an entire continent, or you look at the entire Earth on a map, on the Earth versus on a map, because here's the United States, for instance, or at least most of the United States. It's technically excluding 2 states, but yeah, here's the United States. If you look at it, there it is on the Earth, there is map. You can see how there's a pretty significant change, especially in Canada, because it's near the top. But yeah, you can see how there's significant changes in how everything works. And the reason for that is, again, because if what we're trying to do with this world map, the one we're all taught in school, is we're trying to take a curved, or, almost a perfect sphere. It's not, the Earth isn't actually a sphere, but we're trying to take a spherical, roughly image, and we're trying to turn it into a map. And as a result of that, you're going to get a really weirdly sized image. But because we want it to be on a rectangle that makes sense, instead what we do is we do a few little tricks to kind of make it fit, and those tricks are wrong. You know, the view of the world we all know are actually quite wrong, and that's the title of the video, I'm sure. But yeah, basically the reason for this is because stuff near the top of the map should be really quite small on the map, but we tried to make it the same size, and as a result we end up with countries like Greenland, which look massive. Like Greenland, if you look at the size of this, it's bigger than the United States by quite a bit too. It's bigger than the United States and Mexico and a lot of those countries, right? And maybe even more, even though it's just this, country at the north of the Earth. And if you look at Antarctica, it's always taught as just being this massive landmass down the south, like almost Game of Thrones style. And then if you look at Africa, it's the opposite problem, because when you're close to the equator, there's a lot of stuff there, so it gets a little bit downsized. Not massively, but it does get downsized. And let's just show you what the result of this is. So here's what a map looks like, and here's what the Earth looks like. So as you can see, we're still on Warsaw, let's close that. But here's what the Earth looks like. As you can see, Africa is giant on an actual globe because it actually has the room to go around, because it's actually bigger here. And if you look at countries to the north, like Greenland, as you can see, it's still a pretty big country. I mean, especially for just some random Danish province with 60,000 people living there. But it's still, it's not as big as you might seem. It's not even a third the size of the USA. Actually, it might be a third the size of the USA. But yeah, you can see how it's not as big as it seems because maps distort things. Look at Antarctica. That, the country we always thought as being massive. If you look at it on a globe, and I'm sure you've probably seen this before, it's actually really tiny. And apparently there's a big lake there. I haven't saw it. It's not a lake. It's just part of the thing. But as you can see, that's how maps work. And just as a result of this, if you're to the south or to the north of the equator, your country probably looks bigger on a map than it does in real life. And the opposite's true if you're somewhere in Africa. I doubt you're watching this video in Africa, but if you were, then your country's actually way bigger than most maps give it credit for. Here's Africa again on the globe. Here's Africa on a map. I mean, it's just not to the same scale, is it? It's just not. And that's one of the handy things about maps. So every map you ever looked at is slightly wrong, and that's why. So maybe you adjust for that in the future. Also, it's the reason why it's sometimes better to fly over the map, because, you're always taught that it's this kind of just square that has like edges and stuff. But obviously you can fly over Antarctica, and it's probably wise to do so in certain cases. You can fly over the Arctic, and you can also fly east to west, which most people do know about. But yeah, Alaska isn't the edge of the world, in case you did think that. You can actually cross this big line here. I believe it's the date line, actually, where you actually go entirely back a day, which is a funny little, again, because we try to do the map form, basically all of our time zones are centered around the United Kingdom. They're centered around Greenwich in London, which means that basically if you're to the left of Greenwich, you're negative hours from Greenwich, and if you're to the right of Greenwich, you are plus hours. So if you're somewhere in Germany, your time is 1 hour plus where my time is right here, which it's 5 p.m. as I record this, by the way. So dark's going to be coming quite soon. But yeah, basically, and then you go to the right that way. Or if you're in America, it's 5 hours before right now. If you're on the very East Coast, it's like midday, and it just gets in earlier. Again, as I upload this, it'll be different. But point being, that's a thing that we all know, right? There's time zones in the world, and the weird thing about time zones is because they go backwards one way and forwards the other, we eventually get the issue where there has to be a time, it's called the date line, and it means that if you cross the date line, you either lose or gain a day. So it could be 2 p.m. on the 23rd of March, 27th of March, let's say, and then over on the other side, it's 3 p.m. or 1 p.m., but on the 28th of March. I think I did that wrong, but you get the point. There's a date line where we just cross days because we look at the map as a square, and maybe don't do that in future. Anyway, let's just get off that point. Maps are wrong. I'm sure you'll get the point by now. But let's move on to Google Earth, because like I mentioned, it's a cool thing. People don't know. There's a little button in the bottom left of Google you can click, and you get to see the Earth. It's pretty cool in a few ways, but if you zoom out far enough, this far in case you're curious, one, you can actually see how dark, where the dark line is in the Earth right now, because obviously the way darkness happens is the sun covers half. It's pretty cool, basically. But one, you can see where that is, so you can see, oh, I'm in the UK. It looks like darkness is coming to me quite soon, and that actually does make sense. But two, you can see what's in the darkness, where people are. So here are the population centers. I think it's always cool to see these sorts of maps. But finally, you can also look around space from the view of the Earth, and it's just mind-blowing when you look at stuff like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. And I also believe using Google Earth, you can actually look at the moon. I don't think it's supported in some browsers, but still, you want to look at the moon, you can do that with Google Earth, and that's something a lot of people don't appreciate. So yeah, look around the vastness that is space. Look at the, wait, let's find the sun. It should be easy, right? It's just over there. Right. You can look at the sun. Wouldn't advise doing that, but yeah, you can see all the stars. And yeah, space is a pretty big thing. So, key points from today's video. Google Maps is cool. Google Earth is also pretty cool. And Greenland is not as big as you think. Although, if you do go to Greenland because you think, it's the biggest country, I don't care what maps say, go hug a person. They have the highest suicide rate per capita in the world, which is kind of sad. Like I said, they're a tiny country. The entire country is smaller than my small hometown in the UK. And even the whole of the UK is not anywhere near the size of their country. And there's a lot of weird things that result from that. Key point here, hug a person from Greenland if you ever see them. Although you probably won't see one because of how hard it is to get to Greenland. But yeah, those are words and stuff I hope you enjoyed. I guess let me know in the comments what you think of Geography of toycat. Do you want to see a video on Russia? I could do a whole video talking about Russia. Maybe. But yeah, and it's also this. Goodbye, everyone. Was I looking at the camera this time too? I've been trying to I've been focusing my view just up above my monitors. Did I do it correctly? Do you feel like I was staring into your soul? If so, let me know with the comments. But goodbye. Wait, there we go.